Marcus Reed had grown up in rooms where everything echoed: marble floors, tall ceilings, glass walls that overlooked a city glittering like it belonged to his father. In many ways, it did. Daniel Reed's name was stamped across tech magazines, business journals, innovation awards. At Hawthorne Academy, teachers mentioned the Reed Foundation with reverence. But none of that could help Marcus understand quadratic equations. The first failure felt like a mistake. The second felt like bad luck. By the sixth, it felt like proof. He stared at the paper in his trembling hands. 48%. The red ink slashed across the top like a wound. Around him, students whispered in low voices. A few glanced his way, not with cruelty exactly, but curiosity. The billionaire's son, failing. He shoved the paper into his bag and walked out before the bell rang. That evening, the penthouse felt colder than usual. His father stood by the floor-to-ceiling window, phone pressed to his ear, discussing mergers and projections in a calm, commanding tone. Marcus waited until the call ended. "Well?" Daniel asked without turning around. Marcus placed the test on the glass table between them. Daniel looked down at it. His expression didn't explode into anger. It tightened. "I don't understand," he said quietly. "You have every resource." Marcus swallowed. "I try." "Trying is not measurable," Daniel replied. "Results are." The words weren't meant to wound, but they did. Another tutor was arranged the next day, a retired professor with thin glasses and a sharper tone. Marcus lasted 2 sessions before the familiar fog crept in. The numbers blurred. His chest tightened. He nodded as if he understood, then guessed through practice problems until the professor sighed. "You're capable," the professor said. "But you rush. It's careless." Careless. Marcus knew he wasn't careless. He studied until midnight most nights. But whenever a test sat in front of him, panic flooded his mind. He would see the first step, then leap 3 steps ahead in his head, convinced he was saving time. Somewhere in the middle, something would twist, and he'd freeze. Instead of backtracking, he'd scribble a guess. He couldn't bear the idea of running out of time while still stuck on step 1. So he skipped the next tutoring session. Instead of going home after school, Marcus wandered through downtown streets, hands stuffed in his hoodie pocket. He told the driver to circle back in an hour. He needed air that didn't carry expectation. That's how he ended up near the old train station. The building was cracked and weathered, pigeons fluttering along the roofline. A few people lingered near the entrance. One of them caught Marcus's eye, a black teenage boy sitting cross-legged against the brick wall, a worn backpack beside him. No cardboard plea for money. No outstretched hand. Just books. Thick ones. Marcus slowed. The boy's pencil moved steadily across a notebook. He paused occasionally, staring at the page, then continued with careful precision. His focus was intense, almost peaceful. "What are you doing?" Marcus asked before he could stop himself. The boy looked up. His gaze was direct but not hostile. "Studying," he said. Marcus glanced at the open book. "Calculus. That's college level." The boy shrugged. "Math doesn't care where you live." There was something about the way he said it, calm, certain. Marcus hesitated, then sat down a few feet away. The concrete was cold through his jeans. "I'm failing algebra," he admitted. The boy studied him for a moment. "You go to Hawthorne." Marcus stiffened. "Yeah, I've seen the uniforms." A silence stretched between them. "You want to show me?" the boy asked. Marcus blinked. "Show you what?" "The test." Something about the boy's tone, steady, confident, made Marcus reach into his bag. He handed over the crumpled paper. The boy smoothed it out carefully, as if respecting it despite the grade. His eyes moved quickly across the problems. "You're not bad at math," he said. Marcus let out a humorless laugh. "That's funny. You understand the concepts. Look here." He tapped one problem. "You set it up correctly. Then you skip writing 2 steps. You try to do them in your head." Marcus frowned. So when you get nervous, your head lies." Marcus went still. "You're rushing," the boy continued. "You jump from step 1 to step 4. When something feels off, instead of slowing down, you speed up. That doesn't make sense." "It does if you're afraid." Marcus felt heat rise to his face. "Afraid of what?" "Afraid that if you take your time and still get it wrong, it means you're not smart." The words landed harder than expected. Marcus looked away. The boy flipped the paper over and picked up his pencil. Write everything, he said. Every tiny step, even if it feels stupid. Especially if it feels stupid. Marcus watched as he solved one of the problems, each line neat and deliberate. That takes too long, Marcus muttered. The boy shook his head. Slow as smooth, smooth as fast. Marcus smirked. Where'd you hear that? My mom, the boy said softly. A flicker of something. Grief passed through his eyes before he masked it. She used to say when I got frustrated. What's your name? Marcus asked quietly. Eli. I'm Marcus. I know. A car horn echoed faintly from down the street. Can I come back? Marcus asked. Eli looked down at his notebook, then back up. Bring a pencil. For the next week, Marcus returned every afternoon. They didn't talk about wealth. Eli never asked about the penthouse or the cars. Marcus never asked why Eli carried his life in a single backpack. They sat on the concrete with notebooks between them and worked through problems line by line. Whenever Marcus rushed, Eli would lightly tap the page. Write it. When Marcus grew frustrated, Eli would say, what's the next tiny step? Not the whole staircase. Just the next one. Gradually, something shifted. The numbers didn't blur as much. His breathing didn't spike as quickly. One afternoon, Eli leaned back against the brick wall. Why do you tense up before a test? He asked. Because I know I'll fail. That's not knowing. That's predicting. Marcus frowned. You decided the ending before you start, Eli continued. So you try to finish fast. Like ripping off a bandage. Marcus stared at the ground. My mom used to say fear makes you clumsy, Eli added. Not lack of talent. The next Monday, Marcus sat in his math class with a fresh test in front of him. His hands trembled slightly. He remembered the concrete sidewalk. The steady scratch of Eli's pencil. Slow as smooth, he took a deep breath. He wrote the first step. Then the second. When his mind tried to leap ahead, he forced it back down. Write it, line by line, even when the step felt obvious. Halfway through, panic flickered. What if this still isn't enough? But he didn't rush. He wrote through the fear. When he handed in the paper, he felt exhausted. 3 days later, the teacher returned the graded tests. Marcus turned his over slowly. 89%. His vision blurred, but this time it wasn't from confusion. It wasn't perfect, but it was real, earned. He ran to the train station that afternoon. Eli was there, flipping through a physics book. Marcus held up the paper without a word. Eli scanned it and nodded once. See, Marcus laughed. A sound that felt lighter than anything in months. You're a genius. Eli shook his head. No, I just stopped fighting the problem. They sat quietly for a moment. Why aren't you in school? Marcus asked gently. Eli's fingers tightened around his pencil. My mom got sick last year, he said. Medical bills stacked up. We lost the apartment. He inhaled slowly. She didn't make it. Marcus felt his chest ache. She wanted me to keep studying, Eli continued. Said education is the only thing no one can take away. That night, Marcus did something unexpected. He knocked on his father's study door. Daniel looked up, surprised. Yes, there's someone I want you to meet, Marcus said. Over the next hour, Marcus explained everything, the train station, the secret, the change. Daniel listened without interruption. You're asking me to help him, Daniel said finally. I'm asking you to give him what you've been trying to give me, Marcus replied. A chance. 2 weeks later, Eli stood stiffly in Daniel Reed's office, wearing a clean borrowed blazer. He looked ready to bolt. Daniel studied him thoughtfully. My son tells me you taught him discipline, he said. Eli glanced at Marcus, uncertain. I didn't teach him, Eli replied quietly. He did the work. Daniel's expression shifted, impressed. I'd like to offer you a scholarship to Hawthorne Academy, he said. Full tuition, housing assistance. Eli's composure cracked. Why? Daniel glanced at Marcus. Because talent without opportunity is wasted, he said. And because my son reminded me that success isn't about speed. It's about foundation. Eli blinked rapidly. Marcus stepped closer. You said education can't be evicted, he said softly. Let's prove it. For a moment, the office was silent except for the hum of the city below. 2 boys from opposite worlds stood side by side. one once drowning in expectation, the other surviving without safety. Neither had rescued the other completely. But together, they had uncovered something stronger than wealth or circumstance. Slow as smooth, smooth as fast, and sometimes the greatest secret isn't hidden in textbooks. It's hidden in the courage to slow down and believe you belong.